Yo, Pan, you ready?
Yeah.
Man, let's lock and load.
Yeah.
Just blaze.
Yeah.
No, turn me up.
Hey.
Big, I think we got one.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Well, welcome everyone, parents, girlfriends, family members. This is a really, really special night tonight, and I'd like to thank all of you as well as the ball players for allowing me to be a part of this. My name is Steve Acevedo. I'm one of the coaches of the Whalers, and I've had the pleasure of coaching a few of them this past fall, a couple of them during their high school years for a couple of games, and you really don't realize just what you're a part of until nights like tonight. The coaches here at the Whalers organizations, we work hard for this moment. This is what it's about. You know, it's funny because as I walk in, whether it's a ball player or whether it's a parent, they say, I didn't know you had hair, you know, because, you know, another one says, you look like a banker, you know, because we're always in uniform and with a hat on. So I do have hair, and I actually work for a bank. So, so it's all a very, very special thing. Tonight, when I was about to leave the house, my wife said to me, she goes, I didn't know it was all that, meaning because I was dressed. And I'm telling you guys this, it is all that. Okay, it's okay to applaud to that because that's what you guys have achieved is certainly not to be taken for granted. I don't take it for granted, and I'm proud to be part of the Whalers, and I'm proud to be a part of tonight, you know, to be where you guys are signing and you set yourself up for success. I'd just like to make a quick point as far as quick note. Brandon Kurz unfortunately can't make it tonight. He really wanted to be here. He couldn't get out of what he had to do, but I'm sure he'll get in touch with you at some point, but he's very, very proud of what you guys have accomplished as well. Brandon Kurz was a coach during the summer and an instrumental part in getting the boys to where they're at right now. With that said, again, the Whalers organization isn't just one person. It's a makeup of many individuals who are very, very good at what they do. And I'm not talking about on the field. I'm talking about behind the scenes. The 2 or 3 guys that are on the phones with the college coaches, setting up not only with the interviews with the coaches, but the tournaments that the players go to, that they participate in, so that they get the exposure that they're looking for. With that said, one of the top guys in the field, just in general, not within the Whalers organization only. He's one of the top college recruiting coaches out here, and he's become a real good friend of mine. His name is Kieran Black, and I'd like to welcome Kieran Black to the stage.
Thanks very much, Coach Steve, for being here and speaking tonight. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I'm very honored to say this is the 3rd time we're able to do this here. It's our 3rd anniversary of this event. We have 7 very special baseball players up here who achieved a very impressive accomplishment by signing early to each of these schools. Signing early is a sign of getting your work done academically, athletically, getting noticed at an early period in your pursuit. It's not to say that these are the only people who will end up signing, and it's not to say that those who aren't here tonight that are still trying to find the right choice are second tier to those that are here. This is all about celebrating what these guys have accomplished. I've had the honor to coach them all personally. Every one of them has impressed me individually and shown a lot to me on the field. And I can't tell you how honored I am to have them represent our organization, have them be remembered as Whaler success stories. and be an example for the younger Whalers that are coming up through the system. And one of them is very important to me too, and that's Brian, because he's our first sibling of a Whaler signee to also sign. His older brother Greg, a couple years ago, signed to Fordham University as well, and he's the first Whaler to double up within the same family. So congratulations to him. I'm going to speak a little bit about each player here. And before I do that, I will also call to the fact that while this is our third year doing this event, this is by far our longest tenured class of signees, meaning that this group has all played with the Whalers for multiple summers. They have been with us longer than any of the other groups of signees that we've had, and their longevity with the organization is fully appreciated by myself, by Frank Vizza, by Brandon Kurz, and everyone else who has been a part of this organization. So I would like for everyone to give a hand for them for sticking with us and sticking through this. And before we begin going through each player, I will also say that in the previous two signing events we have had, I'm happy to say that every single one of those players is still at the school that they signed to, still on their active roster and still attending the school, and we're very, very proud of that, because this process is not just about finding a bumper sticker to put on the back of your car, finding someplace to brag to your friends that you're going. It's about finishing the job and finishing the goal that you achieve, and not just applying to a school, not just telling people you signed to a school, but graduating from that school and getting a diploma from that school. And all of those players that we've had so far are on that path, and we look forward to setting this group off to the same path as well. Our first signing here is Dennis De Los Santos. Dennis has been with the organization multiple years. He has been a very durable catcher for us. He goes to Lynbrook High School, also spent time at St. Mary's. He's a 3-year varsity player. He is headed to Concordia College to begin his pursuits there on athletic and academic scholarship. Dennis obviously has played a big role for us as a catcher for this group coming up, and as everyone knows, the catching position requires a lot of rest and a lot of time in between, and usually a partner to do it with. And Dennis did not get to experience this rest over the years. He was pretty much the everyday catcher, and his durability is, to me, his greatest quality. And Coach Kurz cited his durability and his discipline as two of his best qualities. His discipline at the plate, his discipline on the field, and his discipline off the field. And we can all second the fact that Dennis is an essential piece to this group as they move forward, and he will, without a doubt, be an essential piece to the Concordia Clippers as well. Next up is Kyle Martin. Kyle has been a Whaler since he was a freshman in high school. He spent his entire high school career as a Whaler. He goes to Oceanside High School, where he was a 4-year varsity letter on the baseball team. He also lettered 2 years on the varsity volleyball team, as well as 3 years of varsity letter on the basketball team, which certainly shows to his, not just his athleticism, but his dedication to his athletics and the fact that he's not taking a season off at any point. Kyle is headed to Fordham University on athletic and academic scholarship, where he hopes to play 2 ways as a position player as well as a pitcher. Coach Kurz described Kyle as a guy who always wants the ball in his hand in the toughest of spots, and prides himself in always delivering and actually does it. Kyle has been an outstanding centerpiece for us over the years as both the shortstop as well as a pitcher. I can easily say that in the years that Kyle's played for us, when he was a freshman and a younger player, and we were in winter workouts or we had the organization together, all of the older players would look down and say, wow, that kid can really play. And to couple that, by the time he made it and became one of the older players, all the younger players would say the same thing. Wow, that kid can really play. And he was always a real poster child for this organization and for his team. We're very proud of him, headed off to Fordham University. And everyone in the Whalers can't thank Kyle enough for all the hard work he did on the field. And we look forward to seeing what he can do as a collegiate player as well. Next up is Alvin Melendez. Alvin's been a Whaler since he was a freshman in high school. He is a varsity player at Cardozo High School. He also spent time at St. Mary's as well. He's a 4-year varsity player. Alvin is off to Fordham University as well, where he hopes to pitch and play a position as a two-way player. He will be going on athletic and academic scholarship on what we hope is going to be a very exciting 4 years for him at Fordham University. Alvin is another player who, over the years, does not know what an off day is about. He is not happy unless he spends his day on a baseball field. I can tell you in my time with him, every time he took the field, every time he pitched, every time he hit, it was important to him that his teammates, his opposition, and whoever's in the stands knew how much he cared about the game and knew how special he was at playing the game. A lot of guys will go out and have that day where they just, they don't have it or they're not feeling it. I never saw that in Alvin. And to me, that's one of the best qualities you can have. Alvin played with us this fall as well, where we had a lot of younger players on the team, and he was like a second coach there. And to see a player that special, that athletically gifted, give back is a very important thing. I can speak for Coach Acevedo, who's there with me as well. Alvin has been a poster child for this organization and for his teammates, and I can't tell you how proud I am to send him off to Fordham University as well. I know Coach Kurz also made sure that I let Alvin know how consistent you were as a player and how you were the most day-to-day consistent player that he had ever coached. I think that through a lot of hard games that you spent in the spring with him, keeping your cool through that was probably a very important thing for him, and that he'll certainly always remember, and Dennis as well, So Coach Kurz would like to thank Alvin. Coach Vizit would like to thank Alvin, and we're excited to see you go off to Fordham University. Up next is the longest tenured Whaler at the table, Jake Saltzman, who is headed off to Malloy College. Jake has been a Whaler since he was 13 years old, and that is winter of 13, 12 turning 13. So he has been with the Whalers almost about as long as I have. So we'd like to congratulate Jake on going to Malloy as on athletic and academic scholarship. Jake, in addition to his 3 years as a varsity letter at Plainview JFK High School, also spent 1 year as a varsity volleyball player, lettering on varsity volleyball as well. Jake is going to Malloy to pursue his talents as an outfielder, as a guy who, throughout the course of his time as a Whaler, and specifically this summer, showed how well he can really swing the bat, how well he can play in the field, and how impressive of a player he really is, not just as a ball player, but as a person as well. Coach Kurz, when he thought of Jake, the first thing that he thought of was his will to win. He's always the backbone of the team. And I think in speaking to how much time he spent as a Whaler, how much time he spent as a tenured player on this team, he became part of the core. He became what Coach Kurz referred to as the backbone of the team. And to see the turnover year to year that can happen as a travel baseball player, to always be a part of the same cause, to always keep that same will to win, and to be here today, sitting at the table, celebrating a future in college baseball is a very impressive thing. We'd like to thank Jake very much for his time with us. Next is Sam Vega-Fox, who has been a Whaler for 2 years. He has spent 2 years as a varsity ball player at St. Francis Prep. He's headed to Long Island University, Brooklyn, as a Division I scholarship athlete on athletic and academic scholarship. Sam Vega-Fox. Coach Kerr's, the first thing he thought of when he thought of Sam was how sweet of a swing he has, and it is something that in the game of baseball you don't need to be an expert to see. You know, sometimes you need to have a trained eye to see someone's defensive ability, to see someone's movement as a pitcher, to see someone's range as a defensive player. But when you see a kid like Sam who can swing the bat, it's pretty obvious pretty quick how good at baseball he is. I've had the honor to coach Sam this fall, and was very impressed with how well he carried himself and how well of an example he set for the younger teammates that he had on his team. And that doesn't always come with standing on a soapbox and shouting and yelling at your teammates. Sometimes it's about leading by example and taking a guy aside and letting him know how it should be. Sam is the kind of guy who's ready to grab his bat and have an at-bat at any point of the day. He could roll out of bed and hit a fastball, and that's why he's on athletic scholarship to play Division I baseball, and we can't say how proud enough we are of him. Next is Nick Vlahakis from Oceanside High School. Nick is headed to St. Joseph's College in Brooklyn to play baseball on academic scholarship. He's been a Whaler since he was a sophomore in high school, and has spent a lot of time on the mound, where he coined the nickname that Nestor gave him, the Magician. But he's off to sport his talents as a very impressive outfielder who can hit the ball to all fields and swing a great lefty bat. We're very excited to send Nick off to St. Joseph's, Brooklyn. Nick was a 3-year varsity leader at Oceanside High School on the baseball team. He also spent a year as varsity leader on golf as well. Coach Kerr's, if he could describe Nick in one word, it would be gritty. His gritty and competitive nature is something that makes it difficult to compete against. I think in the game of baseball, you have to always have in the back of your head that it's going to be hard for your opponent to beat you. And I think that's what Nick brings to the field every time he goes, every time he steps up to the plate. And sometimes in this game, people want things handed to them. They want guarantees. I think Nick revels in having to compete for something. He revels in having to impress, having to show not just his teammates, not just his coach, but his opponents as well, how good he actually is. And we're very excited to send him off to what's going to be a very exciting 4 years at St. Joseph's. Last and not least is Brian Weissert. Brian's off to Fordham University as part of the Fordham 3 here at the table today. He's going on athletic and academic scholarship to pitch for Fordham, where his brother goes to school as well, as I mentioned before. So we are very, very excited to send Brian off to Fordham University. Now, Brian is up there with Jake as far as Whaler tenure goes. He started with us when he was 14 on a team that a fall and spring team I actually coached that spring. And Brian was able to pitch a no-hitter that year. And fast forward to this year where, he was able to come out and have another dominant summer as well. I think that for me, in coaching Brian, it was always clear that he'd get here one day. There was a time, believe it or not, where he was shorter than me. Those days are over. I think it took him a little while to grow, but once he finally did, the phone started ringing with the scholarships. Brian always pitched like he was 6'5", though, which was very clear. He never let anyone step up to the plate and think that they were going to have an easy time. And by the time that he started to really hit his stride as a player, he wasn't just competitive anymore, he was dominant. Watching him pitch this summer after having seen him as a younger player who was just growing into the 90-foot field was a really impressive thing to watch, a really exciting thing to watch. Seeing his fastball mixed with his breaking stuff and knowing that he put all the pieces together to what is going to be what I think not just a great college player, but a guy who can pitch beyond that. Coach Kurz, in describing Brian, talks about his guts and his poise on the mound, which I don't think could be said any better. I think that he's the type of guy who will always take the mound knowing what his task is. And I can go out to his first start this summer where he was in a car for about 12 hours driving up from North Carolina straight through to baseball heaven, popped off the mound, and pitched a shutout in a championship game to give us a championship in our first tournament of the summer. I don't know who would have pitched if he didn't make it there in time, but I'm happy he did. He spent 3 years of varsity ladder at Bayshore High School. He also was a 4-year varsity volleyball player as well. I think we're all very excited to say that Brian is going to have a wonderful career at Fordham University. As we wrap this up here with these 7 players, one thing that needs to be highlighted, that needs to be emphasized is how much work this actually takes, not just from the players, but from the parents as well. The driving out to baseball heaven, getting on a plane and heading down to Georgia, hanging out in a hotel in a no-name town in New Jersey for an entire weekend. Giving up your summers as players, as parents, for a cause, for a belief that you can play beyond where people say you can play, that you can play beyond high school, that you can hopefully play beyond college. Keeping the grade in school, making sure that you excel not just as an athlete but as a student as well. These 7 players here today are outstanding examples for the many players who are going to sit in these seats in upcoming years. I'm proud to have had them play for us. Very excited to see what they can do as college players. I do try to get out to see as many games as I can, and I look forward to seeing all these players play as well. We are going to take a moment now here to have them sign our Whalers Declaration. Parents, if you want to take pictures and do that as well. Guys, you want to put your hats on or shirts on? And we'd like to officially ask them to sign their Whalers letter of intent. Okay, thanks. Thank you for everyone for coming down today. Thank you guys.